Welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm your host, Kip Tan, and with me today are my lovely co-hosts, Hurin Fan,
Bonjour.
Yetti Beats,
Hello.
and Solution.
Hi.
Today, we're going to be talking about our 2023 bingo and some recommendations that we have now that the project is underway and people have maybe made up their sheets but don't have something to fit every square. We can help you with that. So we're just going to talk about our favorite books for like an hour or two, and we're going to have fun.
Or two.
Yeah, not two. We're gonna try to stay at least 1 hour.
Or 5.
Nope.
As long as it's not exactly 2 hours, I'm fine. Over 2 hours is okay. Below 2 hours is okay.
Sounds good. I can absolutely promise not to take exactly 2 hours.
Okay, that's a fair assumption to kick us off. Okay.
Okay. So we're just going to go through our bingo books, the bingos. We're just going to go through the bingo squares one at a time, and we're going to talk about books that we think would be lovely reads for each of them. So we're going to start off with our square Protagonist with a Disability. This covers any sort of disability, mental, physical. And Hurin, would you like to give us our first recommendation?
Okay, I'll just start with one. The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. It's got a dude with one arm, and he's the main character.
It's true.
It's also really good.
I did not know that. Everybody keeps talking about this book, and I had
It's
no
like
idea.
really good.
Okay.
Yeah. That was also my book in this square.
Well, you got to pick a different one. Sorry.
It's the book
No,
of
it's
the
okay.
year.
We're allowed to double up. We're gonna have so many books here. That's okay.
Yeah. As alternate categories for this book, you could also put it in Demigods, queer, or emotional pain.
Let's wait until we get to those categories. Then
We're
it's
not
better
just
for the
gonna
listener.
We're not just going to say it constantly, but okay.
They could fast forward to the category they're looking for, and then like if we talked about it earlier, then they would miss it.
All right. Are we gonna timestamp 25 squares?
We're absolutely
That's
not
what it
going
sounds like
to. No.
But like I would like skip forward like several minutes if I were listening.
What? I never skip forward ever, unless it's an ad, and then it's immediately skipped.
I'd only do it if there's timestamps.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, I have one, kinda. It's called The Iron Prince. That's right. I gotta give a weird progression fantasy shout out for that one. Yeah, disability.
Okay. Can you give us
What kind of disability?
He has what's some kind of like weird pain thing going on where he's constantly going through injections throughout his entire life. So he has like a high pain tolerance because he has to get subjected to surgery every like 2 months because he has like a bone marrow disease.
God, poor guy.
Okay. Jeez.
Yeah, it sucks. But that's how you do progression fantasy, right? Life's got to suck before it gets better.
Yetti.
Yeah, so I'm going to start it off with a typical Yetti response. So I said Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, his young adult trilogy. I'm going to stick up for this series until I die, whether it kills me or not. And it's about like a prince who has essentially like a crippled arm, and it's like a Northman type of environment. So he can't really hold a shield or a weapon that well. So his father, the king, kind of thinks he's half a king, so to speak, and is kind of frowned upon. So, yeah, I think that's a good book. I think it's a good intro for Joe Abercrombie if you don't want the totally bleak, nihilistic first law world that most of this Discord despises. So,
I agree. I was going to put that, but I was like, you know what? This book doesn't always get very well reviewed, and I didn't want it to be not received well, so I wanted to not recommend it right away. But that was the first one that came to mind. So
bring on the hate. Bring on the haters. Ping them at me. Send them
it's a
my
good
way.
book. I liked it.
That's mine.
Okay, cool. My alternate pick is Starfish by Peter Watts, and the protagonist has a severe emotional disability. And the exploration of that is like half the novel, so we won't get into there, but almost everyone actually who inhabits these underwater power stations has some sort of mental disability.
Is it because they're in these underwater stations? It's like isolated and stuff like that?
No, it's like the reason they get sent there.
Oh,
Oh,
I see.
okay.
That's the same author as Blind Sight, which also has a bunch of disabled protagonists.
Yes, including the main protagonist had a hemispherectomy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I give my other picks?
Sure.
Just one. Piranesi by Susanna Clark. The main character has memory issues.
Ooh, that is good. Okay. I thought memory issues may not be allowed. If I remember them later, I'll throw them in.
She's just getting old, or is there an actual?
No. There's
Uh,
spoiler reasons, but
Yeah.
I'll agree with him. If we're including amnesia, it definitely fits, and it is a great book. I'll second it as well.
In that case, The Rook by
Yes.
yeah,
Damn it! I was gonna say the Rook. Okay, you got it. Yeah.
also counts because the protagonist has memory issues and social issues. And if we're going just by weird futuristic social issues that can be caused by unknown technology or hypothetical technology, I'm going to put in Gridlinked by Neil Asher, where the protagonist has essentially spent so long connected to the internet that they've forgotten how to act like a human being.
That sounds cool. Interesting.
For this square, I read The Warrior's Apprentice by Lois McMaster Bujold. The main
Okay.
character's had a disability ever since he was a kid and just very physically impaired. It was really
Yeah.
good.
Brittle
liked it.
Bones.
Yep.
Lovely book. I will be putting more of our Kosigan stuff in later squares. Shall we move on?
Oh, I have two more.
Oh, Hurin, blast them out.
Okay, these are magical realism. First one is Kafka on the Shore by Murakami Haruki. One of the protagonists, there's two in this story, has severe mental disability. Severe is probably not the right. He definitely has a very distinct mental disability. And then Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. He turns into a bug.
Okay. I will mention one more then, City of Blades by Robert Jackson Bennett, who it's the second book in the trilogy, but the protagonist has a missing arm.
All right, she does.
Whoa, spoilers! I was gonna read the rest of that series. I only got the first book in.
It's a different protagonist from the first book.
Okay, good. All right, that's fine. I'll still pick it up.
I thought you were going to say like PTSD, because doesn't she have that too?
I mean, yeah, everyone in that book has PTSD.
Yeah, I would have a lot more if we.
Yeah, if we included that, that's quite a few books.
Yeah, PTSD is like, oh, every Hob book. Okay, great. Shall we move on to Queer POV? Awesome. So this is a book with a major point of view that comes from a queer character. Queer is an umbrella term that describes everyone on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. We're just going to use queer because it's easier and faster, and it's the one that I use for myself.
Convenient.
Yep. So anybody really want to get theirs out there first so I don't snap it up?
Me. I know you won't snap it up, but I want to talk about it. Okay. I'm gonna do in its entire series. It's the Arcane Ascension series by Andrew Rowe. Features the main character, Corin Cadence. He is bisexual and also he's fairly asexual as well. Um, it's not what Kipton helped me realize. It's not plot romance involved for the novel, but there are definitely features of him like being queer. Like it's part of the plot, I would say, a little bit. So
I agree.
yeah.
Cool.
I have one that so it's called The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley.
Ooh.
And it's kind of It's kind of like the Forever War, I guess, where these soldiers are fighting a war against Mars, and they can travel. They get busted down into light to travel to and from like different battlefronts around the globe or the galaxy. And this character she gets say transferred to light, and when she ends up at a spot 10 years later in the war, or 3 years later, whatever. And then when she gets back after the mission, so she's in a mission, or they are in a mission, I should say, and they transfers back, it's in a different time in life. Like every time she does it, instead of going to and from, it's to and from different points in the war, and it kind of messes with their head. And anyway, we just know their name is Dietz. It's never specified like he or she in the book. It's always they. But multiple times they sleep with men and women, and it's clearly a queer character. But yeah, I love that book. I don't know if I made Kip get it or not, but I definitely think you'd like that one, Kip.
On my TBR.
Yep. So, and that's the one I did read that for my square.
It is much more deserving of the read than the book I'm currently on. So
I will let Kip go first, so I don't steal any of his.
Oh, cool.
I also have a very controversial pick.
The one I'm looking forward to this year is We Are the Ants, but it's not out yet. But the very little that I know about it seems interesting. But the book that I've selected, even though it's not technically science fiction or fantasy, is Fun Home. And it is the story of a lesbian girl who discovers her sexuality and that of her gay father during her adolescence, right before her father's suicide. And it's a graphic novel, and it's a lovely exploration of queer childhood. It's by Alison Bechdel.
I think I'm going to read this one, Kip. You make a good point. I don't know about all of your.
And it has a musical.
What?
In a graphic novel? What?
Yeah.
The graphic novel got adapted for a Broadway musical.
Oh, okay. I was like, how did they portray that? Do you have to sing along? Okay.
Yeah, the reader breaks out in song.
The musical has 3 actresses to play the main character in different stages of her life, including the one writing the novel.
I love it.
Is that it?
That was just my first. I'll let you guys go.
Okay. I guess I'll go with the controversial pick out of the way, but I had it checked by the resident. Well, my pick is Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. And I cannot say why for spoiler reasons, but I had it double checked by our resident Book of the New Sun fan. And while he said that he did not interpret it this way, there are many people who do, and it definitely can be interpreted that way, and that's how I do.
Okay. I haven't finished the book, but I can see it.
Oh, which book have you read?
I'm in the middle of Shadow.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of Shadow of the Torturer, and
all right.
It's off to a strong start from that reading.
Okay.
But I would say it's very much not explicit. So
it's very, very not explicit, and I know this would be kind of a
controversial pick, buddy. That's like picking Ender's Game for queer POV.
Is it?
Yes, very much.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or Speaker for the Dead, where it gets even more gazy.
Is that a term?
Is that gazy or like gazy?
Gazey.
Okay.
Okay.
Though you could add a Y in the middle there if you wanted to, and make it a compound term.
Yeah, that's how I read it. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I don't have any more, just because I'm trying to keep these specifically to ones that I really love that I want to recommend. I'm not trying to have a huge list here.
I have several that I like a lot, but they're a lot less controversial than Book of the New Sun.
Not controversial, probably just more fitting to the square, right?
Yes, but
Okay, well, go
mean,
with that. What do you
I
got?
want to talk to someone about this sometime. So
Okay. I'll do two more. So I've got Winter's Orbit, which is a nice, quick little romance in space. And I have The Steel Remains, which is grimdark epic fantasy with a gay protagonist and a lesbian protagonist.
in a very, very homophobic world.
Yeah.
I
And
have that on my list as well.
And I'm just going to mention the Lambda Literary Awards, which started in 1988, I want to say. And they're an award that goes out to various types of queer authors and books. And they're one of those awards that don't really limit themselves as far as they only give out like one award per year. No, they give out like sometimes like 16 awards per year. So there's a nice, rich list of things you can go back through on their website and check out.
Never heard of them, so it's good to know.
They're also known as the Lammies.
Shall I just share the rest of my picks then?
Sure.
Monstrous Regiment by Terry Pratchett. I don't want to share why because it's a little spoiler and it's kind of a fun reveal. Anyone here read that?
I actually don't think I have.
Full Fathom 5 by Max Gladstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, transgender woman protagonist.
Pretty much anything in the craft sequence qualifies.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah. And then To Light the Lightning by Ada Palmer. It's kind of an they're trying for a post-gender world and everyone's they, and then it's complicated, but it's really good.
It's very cool though.
It's cool.
It's a world basically where everyone is mandated to be queer.
Yeah, by social pressures.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I do have one. I'm going to use this author again, but there's a novella called Upright Women Wanted. Have you ever heard of this? It's like a Tor.com novella.
No.
And it's essentially about traveling women librarians who are lesbians. And they just smuggle like kind of banned books and stuff. And they kind of like are, I don't want to curse, but like awesome. Just roving lesbian librarians who kind of kick butt.
Bands of armed librarians remains one of my favorite phrases from a Garth Nix novel. So
there you go.
No one's going to mention Gideon the Ninth?
Sure. Gideon the Ninth, Harrow the Ninth, Nona the Ninth, and pretty soon Alecto the Ninth.
I honestly had to bump it down to TBR. I just couldn't. 1 second it's awesome, then another review is like, no, I'm checking out. I couldn't do it. It's too divisive.
It's a very divisive. Yeah.
So I just kind of it's the same. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
I like the style, not necessarily prose style, but it's just very stylish, and that really appeals to me.
I really can't decide if I love or hate it. I'm coming more towards the love side. Okay. Let's move on to Space Station. So this book has to feature prominently and hopefully primarily a space station, which is an artificial habitat in a mostly stationary orbit. So not a spaceship, though space stations are allowed to relocate. They shouldn't be like constantly traveling. And it can't be like an asteroid that's been colonized. Just want to put that out there and make that doubly clear for everybody. Okay. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. The first one, I don't remember what book it is, but I'm sure there are plenty of space stations in Murderbot, and I love Murderbot.
That's true. He's got a point.
Yep.
Yeah. Good pick.
There are several books that take primarily on space station, including Exit. What's the second word for that one?
Exit Strategy.
Exit Strategy. Okay. I'll go next then. The culture novel Look to Windward takes place almost entirely on an orbital, which is a culture space station. And I do love it for that because it shows orbital life in a way that few of the books persist in, I'll say.
It's so good.
Also, a lovely look at the after effects of war. Yetti, you got one?
I'm furiously googling.
He's googling right now.
Take no.
Google fantasy
No, no.
space
Continue on.
station book.
No, I got it. So there's the one I couldn't think of any, but there's this one called "Walking to Aldebaran" by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Is that how you say his
Is
name?
that the one you were thinking of? I knew you were trying to
Tchaikovsky.
look for one
Tchaikovsky.
earlier.
Yeah, that's the one. And I don't know. I think it might fit, but Nano Tyran said kinda, but not in the classical sense. It's more like characters on this kind of big maze type of thing, and it's more like I think a alien city than a space station. But it's all I got. It was the closest I could get.
All right. Well, I'm a little bit like Hurin, where it's not controversial, but it's pushing the limits on the square. I'm going to do The Expanse, but hear me out. It's not all the books in the series. It's the
It was very
finale,
particular about this.
the final book, and also I think probably 4 might work. Either way, you got to be into the
I only need
Expanse series
4.
already. I think 4, right?
4 is almost entirely on a planet.
Yeah, it's the plan.
I'm
It's my
thinking
favorite
of,
one.
I'm thinking of a different one of the books. Then I'm
If
sorry.
you're thinking of 3,
Book one takes
I'm thinking
place
of
on
3. Yes,
on at least 2 places that are referred to in text as space stations.
Yeah.
I looked it up.
So, all right.
Yep.
See,
Yep.
there you go. Some of the Expanse books. That's what I got.
Book 1 has Tycho Station and
Palace.
Sirius Station does not
Palace.
count. I will fight anyone on that.
Okay. All right,
No.
that's fine.
What's the one? So you should probably spoiler this.
Eros is also in a planetoid.
Okay, they refer to it in text as a space station, though.
See, yeah, yep.
Yeah, they refer to Ceres as a space station too, and it's just an asteroid that they spun and inhabited.
Well,
But it's still
sounds
space
like
station.
you got a problem with the author.
I do have a
Yeah.
problem with the author.
You should pick it up with both of them.
But really, I more have the problem with people who think that anything in space that you can inhabit is a space station. And I believe that maybe the author is being realistic about how people would use that word. And I am not. But
Okay. All right. Let's not push too many
Yeah,
tips buttons.
let's move on.
Yeah.
okay. I've got 2 Vorkosigan books. I've got Falling Free and Ethan of Athos. Falling Free is a prequel novel, so completely standalone, and it's about the creation of the Quaddies, which are 4 armed humanoids that are an experimental design from a corporation designed for constructing things in zero gravity space. And Ethan of Athos is about a dude who travels from an entirely male planet in order to figure out what went wrong with their shipment of uterine tissue.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
Sounds
ovarian
awesome.
tissue. Because their planet's got to repopulate itself and they're running low.
My second pick is On Basilisk Station by David Weber, and it takes place on a space station. It's not bad.
Cool.
I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
High praise.
I forgot. I think I forgot to say the author of Murderbot. It's Martha Wells for our listeners.
Yeah, I've been forgetting authors quite a bit. But this next one is The Prefect by Alistair Reynolds, and it takes place in a band of space stations, like 1,000 strong, who are all practicing an extreme form of democracy, and the protagonist belongs to the democracy cops who make sure that everyone's right to vote is respected. And he runs essentially like audits on their polling cores because this democracy happens in real time, multiple times per. It's not fully explained how many votes happen per day, but it's estimated to be possibly in the tens or hundreds. And it's all managed by an implant you keep in your head.
Okay. This sounds like a Black Mirror episode.
Are all the space stations like linked? Or are they all like it's like a
No.
big no.
No, you like take shuttles between them.
Oh, see.
Okay. But I meant like communicating, like they're all doing all these votes.
Yeah, and they're all autonomous as well. So they
Okay.
each have their own little mini governments, and only the prime rules of their democracy are the ones that persist across all of them.
I can't do sci-fi. I was imagining like an outdoor shopping mall, but in space. I couldn't. It's not.
Yeah, and you've got some like O'Neill cylinders, and you've got some much more
Oh.
classical descriptions of space stations in there, which are fun. Two more that I have. The City Who Fought, which is an old Anne McCaffrey novel about a space station with an AI core. Sorry, not an AI core, a shell person core, which is a person who has been kept inside a container interfaced to computers ever since they were a small child because they were born with some sort of congenital deformity. And this helps them live out a life which both indebts them severely to the company who makes this possible, company/government organization that makes this possible, and expands their capabilities into something approximating an AI. And then I have Gemina, which is the second book in the Illuminae files and takes place almost entirely on a space station. About half space station, half ship.
Same thing.
Yeah, those are cool books.
Yep. And I'm going to be reading Down Below Station by C.J. Cherry, who apparently has a whole bunch of space station books.
Nerd.
Yeah.
We're all thinking it.
Anybody have more space station books that they want to?
No, I'm good, man. I think you covered the next
I had to
5 years
scrape
of
the bottom of
space
the barrel.
station books. Yeah.
I thought about a DS9 novel, but I didn't go with it.
Yeah.
Any Babylon 5 novel will probably count too. Or at least the ones set on space stations and not on like Mars or whatever.
I will say the Storm Runner 1730, they had a couple that they posted in Discord for protagonists with a disability and queer POV. It's under Green Team Planning if you want to sneak them in real quick.
Thank you. The only person to actually respond. Shout out Stormrunner 1730.
You give us life.
Yes,
So yeah,
we appreciate you.
For disability, they mentioned First Law, which we did. And
Okay.
for queer, they mentioned Gideon, Hero, or Nona, but also Light
There you go.
Among Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki.
That book didn't even come up on Goodreads unless I misspelled it.
You probably misspelled it. You were trying to type too furiously
It's
and too
true.
fast. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even spell.
You know me too well.
Yeah. Yet he can barely read. He just has to listen to audiobooks all the time.
That's my disability.
Okay, so villain as protagonist. I'm a little light here. Why don't you guys tell me what I should be reading?
I could start off. Let me see what I have. Oh, okay. This is one I've been wanting to really get into. This is the Ash and Sand trilogy by Richard Nell.
Ooh.
It features two protagonists on different continents, where one is basically a tropical island and one is the northern, like Viking-esque kind of thing, and how their storylines are going to intertwine. And one is pretty much essentially, as you get to know one of the characters, they're obviously a villain, but the villain as a protagonist, still rootable, But it's a very good series. Still a villain even in the first book, and I won't say anything about the rest of it, but that is what I really want to plug.
Yeah, Soul
Good.
conned me into buying that book, so.
Yeah, I was gonna buy it for you if you didn't. Don't worry.
Okay, I'll
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
All right. My first pick is Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. Might be a controversial pick.
Nah.
But if you read the whole series, you might understand.
Sounds good. All I have is Soon I Will Be Invincible, which has half of the POVs from the standpoint of a supervillain.
We talked about this, Kip. I didn't love that book. I prefer the other Grossman brother.
Yeah. It's a little divisive and it's not excellent. I will say that. It's fun, but not excellent. It's a little popcorny.
I like the cover. Yeah, definitely popcorny. I like the cover though. What did I have? Oh, I had a couple picks. One's pretty basic. So I picked Thrawn by Timothy Zahn, the new
Ooh, that's a
Thrawn
good one.
books.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
I liked that. I liked the old Thrawn books too, but I was nervous
I've
if
only
this
read the
would-
old ones.
Oh, so you haven't read the new ones? Oh, there you go. He's like the main POV in this. I like the old ones much better, but I think these are still not bad. And
Ooh.
then, and then I had Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, because that character's use of metaphors terrorized me throughout the whole reading.
Yeah,
He's a
emotional
villain in my
pain for
eyes.
Yetti coming up.
That is
Is going to be
certainly
that
a
one.
book.
He's a villain in my eyes.
It's
and
certainly a
that's-
book. Yeah.
There's no bigger villain in my life than him. So thank you.
Okay. Are we on the runners up?
Should we bring up the Matthew Woodring Stover Empire novelization?
Yeah, Heroes Die is the first one. Definitely
Oh, I
counts.
wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of his Star Wars one where he
Oh.
uh,
Yeah, I will say for the Thrawn one, if you're at all into the Star Wars shows and stuff, possible hints. Now might be a good time if you want to get into that per Thrawn appearances maybe coming up.
Oh,
Just a heads
Mando.
up.
Huh?
Oh yeah, for this
Yeah.
square, I read the novelization of
Revenge of the Sith.
yeah
Yeah.
by Woolridge Stover, which is good, much better than the movie.
Right.
So I have heard. So I have heard.
The word on the
Does
street.
not make the movie any better though.
That's okay. I do have two others. I have one is the Red Queen's War trilogy by Mark Lawrence. This is probably his least well reviewed series that he has, but I personally like the setting of an unreliable narrator of a guy who constantly thinks he's worse than he probably is, and he grows to continue getting better character development. So definitely a villain, but maybe he improves. I don't know. Read and find out. And then the other one is the Worm series by Wild Bill. If you want a book that is just a web serial and is very, very long, but so worth it. That's all I'll say. Superheroes, supervillains. It's great.
Is Red Queen's War the second trilogy with your Jorg? Is that how you spell it?
Yes. Yeah.
Or wait, not Jorg.
But that's one of them.
That's
It's
Prince of Thorns.
Snorri. It's
Snorri.
Prince of
Snorri
Thorns,
and,
you said,
and
yeah.
Jolin.
Yeah, Prince. Because I was going to say Prince of Thorns would fit this
Yeah,
category.
Prince of
That
Thorns
one-
fits really well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that gets often recommended. I want to do a second trilogy.
Oh.
My second pick was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Dune by Frank Herbert,
Ooh. Fun.
and
Oh,
The
spoilers.
Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Or Kuang.
Oh, yeah.
Kuang. I think Kuang.
It definitely fits.
I'm wondering if Terra Ignota fits.
Maybe.
According to like half the people on Reddit, it fits.
Maybe. It's
Well,
certainly.
we should not be basing our judgments and recommendations off anybody on Reddit. And I use Reddit
It
a
fits
lot.
about as much as Book of the New Sun for some of my picks.
Yeah.
It's really up to the reader interpretation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, a significantly more personal square, Comfy Read.
Ooh. Okay.
And I'm going to recommend Tress of the Emerald Sea because it's a cute little storybook with cute characters and an easy listening style and pretty art.
I got a proof.
Very nice. I haven't read it yet, but I plan to for multiple squares, and we'll see which one it fits into.
First Brandon book in a while that I liked.
Yeah, it's a big change for him in narrative style.
I'll go next. This one's actually suggested, and I agree with her, by Lady Swidden. It is the Mage Errant series by John Bierce. It's about a boy and his group of friends that he meets at a magic school and their adventures and learning to become better magicians in a crazy world.
You think that any power fantasy could fit this square?
Yeah.
Or at least any power fantasy that doesn't have like huge trauma as spice?
Yeah, maybe. Depends on the reader, but yeah.
I feel like it's pretty subjective, like square. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Like for me, it's clearly anything by Tamara Pierce.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nope. I see it.
I agree. It's very subjective, and literally anything could be a comfy read. But at the same time, I think we all have this image of something comfy that most people I would agree with.
Like, there's a reason that comfy read is on the opposite side of the board from Beware Emotional Pain.
I mean, I was going to say the second book in Farseer is a comfy read for me. So I don't know. But that also
never has my blood boiled so much.
But like,
in the second book, okay. No.
Whose comfy read is like Kindred?
No. Lady Swinton actually has that as emotional pain. So she wanted me to mention that one. We'll get to it.
My first one and the one I read was it was for Disney Square. But my first one is Kiki's Delivery Service, or Majo no Takubin by Eiko Kadono. It's fun.
Great book. Yeah.
Cute.
Nice.
Yeah, Soul recommended that to me. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Read that with my daughter.
It's a quick read. It's very fun.
Did you like it better than the book or the movie?
No, I think I still like the movie a little better. What about you, Hurin?
I think I like the book more. Like I like the movie, but it's like one of my least favorite Ghibli movies, and they're significantly different. So
that's fair. Gigi is really good in the book. I like that.
Yeah.
It felt more. I mean, the movie kind of was like this, but it felt more episodic in the book, where she went on her little different deliveries. It was definitely more clearer. You know, it was enjoyable. Although the boy didn't have as big a role in the book, it felt like. All right. I got so I put Boy's Life by Robert McCammon, and it's essentially kind of in the vein of Stand By Me by Stephen King, or The Body in this book, where it's kind of a coming of age, but it's more fantastical than Stand By Me. And it's kind of about a son and his dad witnessing a car crash where someone dies into a lake. Very comforting.
Wow. Yeah.
But it really deals with, you know, just being that age, like in elementary school age, and just growing up, riding your bike in the woods and stuff that really hits the nostalgia kind of bone in your body. And I recommended it for everyone. Like it's in my Mount Rushmore, and I could reread it all the time. And you guys should too, if you like feeling things, not like feeling not feeling depressed, but having.
I think Yeti's confusing the emotional square, emotional pain square again.
I think Yetti is. I think Yetti reads painful things for comfort.
I think. Well, yeah. After how much he pushes the Hobbs series, I think that's true.
That's what makes him beautiful. But anyway.
It's okay.
I'll do my second. My second was The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. It's one of my favorite books ever, and it's not free of pain, but it's mostly low stakes, fantastic protagonist, beautiful style.
Okay.
Is there a sequel of that?
There is, but I haven't read it. And I hear it's quite different. So.
Okay, we can move on from comfy read.
Wait, I have one more.
Yeah, I have more too, but it's fine.
Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones.
Yeah, I'll second that one. That's a good one. Another Ghibli adapted film.
Okay.
I'll throw out one last one before we move on. Is Superpowers by Drew Hayes. And if you don't want a villain as a protagonist and you want to instead feel comfy, you could read this. It's about a superhero college.
Okay.
It's very comfy. There you go.
Next square up is something that's been on your TBR for 5 years or more. That's obviously impossible for us to recommend, so we're going to be moving on.
Bam, we did it. Quickest one yet.
Yay.
2023 releases. This is also a little hard to recommend, but does anyone have something that they're looking forward to?
I can't recommend something I haven't read, so I just put
Tress now, but that's about it. Like pretty much this project stuff.
If you trust an author to deliver only good
then
things.
I trust, the final Cradle book is coming out. The final Mage Errant book is coming out. I have quite a few series that are ending this year, and I fairly trust them. But again, they're not even out yet, so.
I don't know if I trust Tamsin Muir yet, but Electo's coming out. I do trust Alistair Reynolds, so I'm looking forward to Machine Vendetta, which is the third and final book in the Prefect Dreyfus Emergency series, which is a horrible series title. But it was made after the fact and after the first book was written. So whatever. And I'm looking forward to Dead Country by Max Gladstone, which is going to be the first book in a new craft sequence.
Me too. I want to read that.
Yep. Okay.
Whoa. I have
Yetti. What do you got?
I have March's End by Daniel Polanski, which I just found out he was writing just recently. And he writes all different types of books, like one about talking animals. He'll write epic or a dark fantasy. So he kind of goes all over the place. And this one's a portal fantasy about a suburban family. And I don't know. It's just wildly different from anything else he's read. So I think it's a standalone. So I'm excited to see what that's like.
Hey, more standalones are better. We like that. It's cool.
Okay. Let's move on to non-Western myth or folklore.
Ooh.
Who's got
I
one
got
for
nothing.
this?
Okay, it's hard for me to recommend, but this guy named Matt Clayton does a series of just various mythologies around the world. I read the one on Egyptian mythology. It's fine if you're looking for something like that. I also put the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki on it, but I can't really recommend either. They're not like riveting reads or anything.
Okay. I do like Egyptian Saw, actually. I have to check that out because I was looking for something for that.
I'm going to suggest the story of Mulan.
Oh. Is that a book or the movie? Disney movie?
The book.
No.
I
Well,
think it's that movie that just came out a couple
book.
of years ago.
And any, because there's a couple different tellings, but you can find a story of it.
I think I need the music. I'm sorry.
But there's more dragons.
Oh.
Okay. I like dragons.
Like they really downplayed the dragon in the Disney movie, but in some of the tellings, there's pretty prominent draconic journeys, I'll say.
I disagree. If anything, there was way too much Mushu in that movie.
I mean, look, Mushu is an entirely different kind of dragon that is entirely inappropriate to the original Chinese mythos.
Okay.
I actually prefer Mushu to Donkey in the Eddie Murphy canon. So there you go.
How dare you?
As far as animal companions go, I'll take the raccoon from Pocahontas, Miko.
Oh, whoa, deep cut.
Okay.
Anybody got any other ones?
I do not. I'm sorry. I'll admit it.
Yeah, I have. Wait, would South Pacific Island cultures count or no?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's these like small books, I guess novellas by Benedict Patrick. One of them's called Where the Waters Turn Black, and they're kind of just, kind of mythology, fantasy mythology stories in different cultures. And this one is, like I said, whatever I just said, an island one. It looks like there's a volcano in the background. South Pacific Island culture. So I read like the first 4, and they're all kind of standalone in different cultures. But those are real good if you're looking for like a short, bite-sized, whatever the category is, non-North American mythology books.
That's what I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay.
And yeah,
Non-Western.
I like-
non-Western myth folklore.
I can't remember the name of this anthology, but I had a tale of stories of Kokopelli, which is a trickster god or spirit of the southwestern Native Americans, and there's some fun tales in there.
Is it Coyote?
It's not Coyote, no.
Okay.
Kokopelli plays a flute.
Yeah.
And it has a
You'll
humpback.
see a symbol around in a lot of Native American.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Once you see it, I'll show you afterwards. I'll show you.
Now we move on to Beware Emotional Pain.
Oh yeah.
If we
Okay.
have to.
Let's do it. Who wants to go first?
I'll throw Lady Sweden's out there.
Okay.
Go ahead again.
I'll throw Stormrunner 1730s out there first. The Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin.
I recommend.
Yeah.
Lady Sweden's.
Oh, she has a Kindred.
Ah,
And
Yeah.
also
I also
Parable
had
of the
Kindred.
Sower. Yeah.
Kindred was mine.
Yeah.
Kindred's so good.
Sorry. She took it. She was first.
Yep.
You're too slow.
While we're out there, The Dispossessed. I feel like that goes in the same general area as Parable of the Sower and Kindred.
Yeah.
I'll
It
throw
didn't really
in
affect me emotionally.
Unkindness of Ghosts, which is about the horrors of slavery during voyages.
I have several, so maybe I should just list them.
There's a
one in
lot.
row.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kieran,
shall I
go.
just- Okay. Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Good stuff. I just finished the other day. Love it.
Throw Orcs and Crake in there.
Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Look to Windward by Ian Banks.
Yeah.
The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. Doomsday Book by Connie Willis, and just all of Malazan.
Yeah.
No one's heard of that before.
That's
I just chose. It's tough to whittle it down, but I chose. I think someone was just talking about it. Where the heck is? Trader Baru by Seth Dickinson. I haven't read the other books in the series, but that first one I remember getting to the end and feeling like garbage and drained. So
I second that. That's a good book. Second
I
one, I'm
don't-
not really liking.
yeah, and I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. It's I wouldn't say it's a hard read, but it's not something that like you're going to dive right into and it carries you through. It's not a big book, but it's I think it takes a little effort to to get into, and then once you get used to the main character, the girl, it gets interesting. But yeah, it's definitely a great payoff. It's like, especially if you want kind of your heart to hurt.
I suppose that counts as queer POV too.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yep.
So is 5th season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at us go.
Okay.
I really don't have anything different than what I've already recommended. Some of them do have emotional pain. So, yeah. Worm, but I don't want to force anybody into web serials. I feel bad.
Hyperion.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have another one, but I want to save it for a different category.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you could overlap. It's
You
fine.
can just mention it and then explain it later.
Yeah, I mean Saga. I mean,
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, yeah. Let's move on to Non-Human Companion.
I'll go in case Soul has this one. So I put Malice by John Gwynne. And yeah, the main one of, I mean, there's a bunch of POVs, but essentially the main character who we're probably going to follow throughout the whole series has, I don't know if we're going to say what the animal is, but
Yeah, we don't need to spoil it, but there's an animal that is the companion, and it's not a human, so it fits the square. Yeah, checked all the boxes there.
I'm going to say Illumina of the Illuminae files has Aiden, the ship AI.
oh,
Yeah, that's fun. That's cool. Aiden's
And then
cool.
a lot of the culture books have drones and other AIs as well.
Yeah, I had player games in mind.
Yep.
For Scarf and Arfisher.
Scaffin Amscott or
Yes, that
Fleur
one's-
Imso.
Sure.
Well, I'm gonna have to go to like a deep pick just because Yetti stole my pretty much my only pick because this is not something I really get into much, and that was what's on my brain. I'm gonna have to go Cradle, but you have to get to like book 5. So honestly, you're
Skip.
either in it or you're not. So sorry, I got nothing. I got
So-
nothing here.
Soul, what about what was that one series you recommended me that was like Pokemon? The Travis Riddle book? Is that like a companion?
That
Would
is true.
fit?
Okay, so Travis M. Riddle wrote a book that's specifically it's kind of like progression fantasy. Really, it's just Pokemon, and he's got different kind of Pokemon, and it's just a very light, comfy read. So it fits that square too. And it's set in a tropical, almost Indigo Island kind of thing. So
I
there
was
you
going
go.
to use that for my square for the companion one or
And it's
non-human.
not Codex Alera?
It is not. No, I started Codex Alera as a kid because it's supposed to be based on Pokemon, and it was not even close. Dropped it. This is like Pokemon. I recommend
Okay.
Travis M. Riddle's. What is it? On Lavender Tides. This is the first book.
Okay.
My picks are Nausicaa by Hayao Miyazaki.
Ooh.
She has like a little fox companion
Yeah.
family or something. Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. But I can't say why because that'd be spoilers.
Spoilers.
A third time.
And Malazan by Stephen Erickson because like that whole series is about companions and they're mostly non-humans.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Cool.
I'm convinced Drew from Inking Out Loud paid you to say Book of the New Sun as many categories as you could.
I love Book of the New Sun.
You did a pro bono. All right.
I'll go to something that I love, The Immortals Quartet by Tamora Pierce, with a main character who can speak to animals. And her primary companion is her horse.
Yeah, Timur Pierce has a lot of them.
Yep.
That's good.
The Farseer trilogy has Fitz and his ability to also talk to animals, kind of.
That is so much emotional pain, though. I don't know if I would inflict that on anybody.
The Drizzt series, he's got like a wolf, right?
Yeah, he's got something.
Yep. And Saga. There's a variety of things to choose from with non-human there. Actually, it's unclear if anyone is human in that main cast.
Yeah, the odd one out. That's the human companion.
Yeah.
I'll read it someday. It's finished.
You haven't read any of them, Hurin?
I'm not going to until it's finished.
He'll wait. He'll wait.
We'll alert you in 10 years.
Shall we move on? Okay, next up is Middle Eastern or North African author. Really, we'll accept all of Africa for the square, but just that the author is of Middle Eastern or North African or African descent or citizenship.
I think we're mostly going for like grew up in a like the Muslim world vibe, yeah.
Not necessarily the Muslim world. We'll accept a variety of things, but we're going. It's
like
hard.
specifically closer to that continental area.
Just
is what I
that
think the goal
continental
is.
area.
Yeah, just like how we're doing non-Western myth and folklore is like to stay away from this area and do the rest of the world. This is like trying to focus on that part of the world.
Yeah. The one that I have selected is called The Bleeding of the Stone. And I haven't read it yet, but I have had it highly recommended to me from a friend. And it is about Libya and a man's quest to survive as a rare wild sheep herder.
Okay.
That was riveting.
Is this like extreme sport kind of thing? Like a wild sheep
Like,
herder?
there's bandits involved, but there's also
Okay.
religion
Well, that's
and
right. I understand.
spirituality.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah, when you said survive, I was like, I didn't know sheep herding was so extreme.
In the
Hey.
desert, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have something for that square?
Yeah. Oh, good, Hurin.
You said yeah first.
That's true, I did. Throne of the Crescent Moon by Saladin Ahmed. I definitely butchered that. Has a cool cover. It's like what I read when I first got back into fantasy in like the early 2000, maybe around 2010 area. I'll be honest, I didn't check where he's from. He might have been born in Jersey for all I know, but I don't know. I think this fits. I think so. But
Yeah,
the book's
everybody
like
can just do your own research just in case. That's all. We tell everybody.
but the book's like about like a kind of fat wizard in like a Middle Eastern Aladdin setting. So
Yeah,
fun.
the square was hard to research, but we're going to do our best.
Dude was born in Michigan.
All right. Well, cancel that pick. I have nothing.
Yep, Yeti's out. Sorry, buddy.
Thank you for the fact check.
if we're going for immigrant, like born of immigrant parents, like his parents are Lebanese, Egyptian, Irish, and Polish.
Oh,
But
Mhm.
I don't know if
Mhm.
that counts.
I mean, for this square, this is going to be tough, anyways. If
I agree. This
someone's
is
trying to
by
fit
far
the
the most
spirit of the
difficult.
square,
yeah.
that's
I'm
fine. You know,
Airborne, Michigan. Yeah, not close.
Well, I don't know what the spirit of the square is then, because like you guys kind of made it even more fuzzy for me. Like,
well, I
well,
mean,
like
the spirit is that culture. Like it, just because they weren't specifically born there, if that's something that they grew up around
If
that
their
culture.
parents passed down the culture, that's fine.
Yeah.
okay.
Uh, I have a kind of sort of something that might fill the square, which is This Is How You Lose the Time War, which has Amal El Motar as one of the two writers.
Oh, good.
It's a lovely love letter to love letters as two agents circle each other in a dance across time. And Amal El Motar spent 2 years in Lebanon because she comes from a Lebanese family.
Oh, all right.
All right.
So
Like a
I have
study
Eyebrow
one.
abroad.
is very high right now.
we'll accept that.
I have one author, but two books by him. I plan to read both of them.
I
This
think a
year.
few. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think a few of my books were written by somebody who read a book from somebody who was from the Middle East, so that might count.
Okay.
Wow.
This is one is a progression fantasy. It's his first one is called Light Blade. It's by Zamil Akhtar. And then again, I have not read these, but I do plan to this year. They have gotten good reviews. And then the other one is Gunmetal Gods, also by Zamil Akhtar. And the guy gets some cool covers. That's all I'm gonna say. Like he
That's a
didn't have to
badass
say
title too.
anything. Like I just his titles and his covers. I just bought his books because he's like, oh, I've released a book. Bought it. I'll read it. So there you go. Once you guys read it and you let me know, and then I'll read it too, because that's how it should work here, right?
Um, I read Arabian Nights or 101 or 1001 Nights, and I
Mhm.
was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Like it's just narrator upon narrator, and it's just like story within story within story within story. So it's cool. Good stories too.
Nice.
I didn't know that was a book. I thought it was just an Aladdin song. Well, today I learned.
You're the movie buff. Haven't you seen the movie of this that's been
No.
adapted since like the 20s?
I read a translation of an ancient mathematical text, but I don't think that really counts for this.
No, no. If mathematics is the primary subject of any of
I
these
don't know. It
books,
doesn't
we
need to
do
be
not
fiction.
count.
I don't think that. I think that would count.
That's not branching out for him, though. We wanted to branch
Ah,
out.
fair. Fair,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Let's go over to heists. The square primary component of the novel has to be about a heist.
Yeah.
I've got the one that I'm going to be reading is Against a Dark Background by Ian Banks. But the one that I recommend for people is Almost Any Artemis Fowl book by Eoin Colfer.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Okay.
Which are about interactions between a child genius and the secret world of the fairy and everything that he wants to steal from them.
I've never read these books, but as a kid, I heard they were good. And now that I know it's about heist, maybe I actually will pick them up. Yeah.
The
I guess I'll go
heists,
next.
hostages. There's some vault infiltrations. There's some Home Alone defending the castle bits. It's
Ooh,
pretty varied.
cool. And it's just, if you get like a Joe Pesci character in there, I'm all in.
Yeah, you had me at Home Alone.
Yeah, it's true.
I have The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
It fits and it's great. The Fifth Elephant by Terry Pratchett. It's
that's a
about
good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one for that.
Yep.
The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of that.
And
ultimate
Neuromancer
heist.
and Neuromancer by William Gibson.
Awesome
Okay.
books. Awesome books.
Yetti, what do you got?
So I picked Sarah Gailey's other novella. It's called River of Teeth. And, in the early 20th century, the U.S. government, had a plan to import hippos into Louisiana, but they never went through with it. for like an alternative meat source, and these books are like an alternative history where they did do that. And
God.
Louisiana had hippos, and people are kind of riding them like horses in the old west. And
This is a hippo world. I like this. Okay.
yeah, it's pretty
We're
cool.
like
riding
Worst
hippos.
idea ever.
And so they're
Or the
riding them
best idea ever.
throughout like the marshes and stuff. And essentially, the main character, gets like the gang back together to do one last kind of robbery, heist off a boat, a river boat, and they use their hippos to do it. And and if you
That
know anything
sounds
about
like-
hippos, they're like extremely dangerous. Like
Yeah.
they will.
They're herbivores, but very, very dangerous. So they
Very-
just want to, kill you.
They're also quite susceptible to sunburn. Maybe they fix that with selective
Really?
breeding.
I have, well, first off, I'll say the obvious Lies of Lockerbora, but what I really want to get into is Rogues of the Republic. It's a 3-book series trilogy by Patrick Weeks. It's with an E at the end, and yeah, they're not bad. They're very interesting. There's some queer characters. I don't want to spoil anything, but it would also fit Matt too.
Okay. I'm going to mention Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett, which is a lovely heist in a city where magic has started to become industrialized through scrivings that can convince reality it doesn't work the way it does. And I'm going to mention Provenance by Anne Leckie, which is part of her Imperial Ratch universe, but is a separate character story. And I'm going to mention Consider Phlebas by Ian M. Banks, which is a heist telling a story opposite the culture. It's a heist
Bold move
against
for
the
first
culture.
culture book.
It's a very bold move, but I enjoyed it.
I just remembered one. Six of Crows by Leah Bardugo.
Okay.
I actually liked that.
We all done with heists? Let's move on to horror fantasy. I'm looking
Yetti, you
forward
want-
to Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle.
Uh-huh.
With that title, are you sure that's a Tingle book?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the least.
It's
that's the
gonna
most
be-
tame.
It's going to be his first full novel, and it's about a like demonic pray away the gay camp.
Oh, I like that. I mean, not yeah.
Yeah.
We know what
Surprise.
you like. Calm down. It's fine.
I'm surprised he didn't sneak a butt in the title or whatever.
No,
else.
this one's going to be more serious.
Wow.
But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how serious it is, or maybe he's really trolling you guys because this guy's really good at that.
What if he writes a great book and never goes back to the amazing smut I'm used to?
No, I want him to write like a New York Times bestseller and then goes right back to the smut.
That's right. Yeah.
I have no fears that he will not go back to smut.
He might make one about this podcast we're doing right now. We don't know.
Oh, that would be an honor.
It would be.
Okay, I'll go next. Pet Cemetery by Stephen King.
Nice.
It's, read that the first time last year. It made me cry, and it was really scary. And it's kind of about grief and loss, and it's just really good and touching and scary. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde.
Nice.
I recommend Another Square. It's good. And Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman is the square that is what I read for this year's bingo, and I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It's kind of an underground London. That's just it's weird, but it's horror-y.
Yeah. Some people have said like Alice in Wonderland in the underground streets of London, kind of.
That's a good way of putting it. But a lot darker.
It feels like that.
Yeah, darker.
Stormrunner 1730 took my pick with Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer.
Yeah, that was a good pick when I saw I did that. Yeah.
And Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury.
I second that. I love that book.
Yeah, me too. Must read during October or November. So I chose. This is like the ultimate. I think it's always comes up in recommendations too. Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. If you recognize that name, in the fantasy world, he wrote The Black Tongue Thief. So before that, he got his start in horror, and this is very much like straight horror fantasy. Like it's about a disgraced knight who kind of picks up an orphan who survived like the Black Death, and it's in like a medieval setting, and it's just like it has very fantastical elements, like standard fantasy, but it's like got a ton of horror elements that it really straddles the line of what genre it. You think a knight and you would think it'd be immediately a fantasy book, but I mean, I think it's almost straight horror, but definitely has a lot of fantasy in it, and in a fantasy world that we're kind of all used to. So,
Okay.
and like Hurin said, I mean, you could pick any Stephen King book. I mean,
Yeah.
he literally just came out with one called Fairy Tale, which is very like heavy on the fantasy, but also horror.
Yeah, I
I've
just
read
did a
that
King
much
book.
Stephen King, but what I've read I liked, and Pet Sematary is the best one, so that's what I went with.
I'm gonna go with an off the wall pick here. Graphic novel, Kill 6 Billion Demons.
Oh
It's very
One
fun.
more time.
my god!
It's Kill 6 Billion Demons is the title.
Ill. ILL.
KIL. Yeah.
Kill.
Billion?
Kill.
BILL? Billion?
Oh my gosh. You're gonna go all right.
Kill
Elo.
6 billion demons.
Yeah, Kill 6 Billion Demons.
Okay.
That's the title.
I swear I heard ill. I'm like, ill. What is this?
That'd be
like
cool
Beastie
too.
Boys?
But yeah, it's very like celestial inspired, like almost mythology inside the design of the demons and the gods. It's very cool. Very interesting.
Okay. Ready to move on to Demigods?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Demigods, the one that I've already filled out for this year is The Spear Cuts Through Water. But because we've talked about that one enough, I'm going to go with Kushiel's Dart, where technically everyone in this country is part god. They
Cool.
carry the blood of Elua in their veins.
Okay.
And for
I
my
didn't even-
secondary pick, The Sorcerer of the Wild Deeps by Kai Ashante Wilson, which is an interesting examination of a world in which the magic has faded, but some people still carry the blood of gods in their veins and are sometimes able to call on it in dire need. And sometimes have to hide that they have it because the world doesn't necessarily accept them anymore.
Okay. I chose The Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny.
Nice.
It's just
Interesting
one of my favorite books
conception.
ever. Well, I mean, they got gods, and the gods have lots of kids, so they would technically be demigods.
Yep.
And then
the rare
Cersei.
science fiction demigod.
Yeah. Lord of the Light is so good, and it's so short. Everyone should read it. And then Cersei by Madeline Miller. Yeah, Cersei is a demigod.
Oh, such a good book. I love that book. Standalone. If anybody needs any more reason to read it, it's a standalone. So
Yeah. Well, I picked Song of Achilles because that's what I'm going to read for it. Although I don't know. I assume Achilles is a demigod, right?
Yeah.
So I was going to, because I read Cersei too. That's awesome. But I'm using, so I don't know if this book's good. Maybe it sucks. But I'm reading Song of Achilles by the same author.
I like Cersei more, but yeah, I quite liked Song of Achilles as well.
I have Paternus by I think Dirk Ashton.
Oh,
I think that's it. Yeah, it's got demigods. It's got a lot of different mythologies all put into one. And it's like a not urban fantasy, but it's just a very tropey story. But it's fun. It's very cool to see a lot of different weird mix of mythologies.
That's on my TBR.
Achilles is actually like an interesting version of a demigod because technically, like in Greek canon, his mother was the offspring of a Titan.
Yeah, it's like the ancestor gods.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't fit.
And not part of like the main
No,
bread.
we fit it.
She was
That's
a god.
fine.
She got confirmed as a god, but she's like a second tier goddess.
Hmm.
There's some interesting like mythological politics around that. It's fun.
Oh. I mean, if that doesn't count, I might
No,
have
it
to,
counts.
I have to read
Absolutely
He's
counts. It absolutely counts.
Yeah.
the novelization of Moana. That's my backup. I don't know what else.
Oh no, he's gonna have to be reading musicals again.
Yeah, that's right. Would American Gods count, or are they just straight gods.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, that would count.
Have you read it?
Just-
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
counts.
Those are the new gods. Oh, I get or
No,
Yeah.
there's a pretty important.
Been a while.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody going to mention Percy Jackson?
Nah, I feel like that's too obvious.
Cool.
No.
Wait,
And
No,
also it's
I love.
terrible.
No, I'm gonna be the counterpoint to Hurin. I love the
Okay, you're
books.
right. It's not terrible. I just hated it.
That's fine.
Wait,
He's allowed to hate things.
I'll
And I'm
spoil
allowed
it.
to love things. That's fine.
I'll spoiler this, but give me the American God.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
No, Percy Jackson's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay.
And it definitely fits. More than probably anything.
Want to move on to
Yeah.
All About the Punchin'?
Ooh.
Okay, this is essentially any book that you think would make Ken happy, but primarily any book that's about the action. Got nice action sequences, got some good fights. It's got the Punchin'. And I'll start off with the Axe of Cain.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that fits.
Even though there's some like higher level thinking in there, it still has got great Punchin'.
He knows how to punch, definitely.
Yetti.
All right, I'm gonna butcher this name. So I picked Battle Royale by Koshun Takami.
Okay.
I hope I nailed that. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's about just a bunch of students who are hijacked and they have to fight to the death on an island with different weapons. And
Yeah.
also could be used as a comfort read and for some people, but yeah, I enjoy that book. It's a nice chonky fellow and a good standalone.
Soul.
All right. So many of my books, but I'm only going to mention one because it's the only one I really want to push today is Cradle by Will Wright. Because guess what? It's finishing this year, so you could finish the series. There you go. Get a
I'll second
2023
Cradle.
book. Yeah, it's progression fantasy. It's without spoiling things. Guy learns to use magic, and guess what? He punches a lot of things with it. And there you go.
What else is there to do with it?
Yep.
I did the Steel Remains. We talked about that already.
Okay, yeah. There's some great swordplay in that. And knife play.
I also did Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny.
What? Okay.
What? The action sequences that are exciting.
Sure, there's some great action sequences.
And then Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Okay.
I read it for the romance, but it's really about a war, or like half romance, half war.
Is there romance in there? I just picked that up because it was on sale one day.
I would say it's primarily a romance novel.
Okay. I'll have to check it out this year.
I'm going to put in the Demon Wars saga by R.A. Salvatore, which has some excellent, like clearly martial arts informed depictions of combat. It's a little bit too much for me. I don't need to know exactly how like you're twisting your body and moving your arms and legs precisely, but he does that for people who are really into it. And some martial artists that I know really appreciate that. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next square with banned or challenged books. So this one's real easy to find something for. You just need to find any library or school or town where your book was asked to be removed or forced to be removed, one or the other. We don't care if it was ever actually banned. All we care is if someone wanted it to go away and got enough to write a news article or something about it.
Yeah. So this is where I put Saga. I saw it was banned somewhere. I saw some article. I mean,
Saga was actually removed from the App Store briefly.
yeah, right.
Oh.
I forget. I think it was like volume 4 or 5. They did that. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, if you don't know Saga, it's Romeo and Juliet in a space world with nipples and sex and drugs and violence and just very extreme, gratuitous things.
Well, you
And
already sold me. Come on.
and it's
You don't
beautiful.
have to- you don't have to keep going.
Yeah.
All right, so that's banned. Good. I've been having a hard time just like searching the books I want to read to see if it was banned, because then just stuff about that book pops up. So I was just trying to find a list of banned books, I guess. With not much results. So
I found a
I got
banned book
nothing.
quiz.
Quiz?
Yeah,
Please
it
tell
was
me
like,
this is
have
not on
you read
BuzzFeed.
this book? And it was like, oh, well, The Hunger Games is easy to mark off.
Yeah.
I got like 33 out of 75 or whatever. But there's a lot of classics on there. So if you haven't read Brave New World, 1984, Slaughterhouse-Five, The Giver, Stranger in a Strange Land, Left Hand of Darkness, Kindred, those are all on there. But if you want something newer, my friend's book was recently banned, Reverie by Ryan Lasella.
Oh, congrats to Ryan.
Nepotism.
It's a lovely book about queer teens, one of whom has the power to step into other people's manifested dreams. It's interesting.
This is actually my longest list. 1984 by George Orwell, Beloved by Toni Morrison, Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin, and Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, a lot of classics.
Yep. Several Stephen King novels are in there.
I think Bridge to Terabithia is on there.
No,
The,
don't read that. That's emotional pain
Whoa,
to the utmost.
That's one of my
I mean, it's a
favorites.
good book, but please be prepared.
That's the same reason I'm not recommending the Last Herald Mage trilogy by Mercedes Lackey, because God, there's some trauma there.
Yeah.
It fits too neatly into a pattern of trauma happening to gay people that I don't need more of in my life. Okay, we can move on then to Vendetta. Unless anyone has any last minute additions? Nope. Good. Okay, Vendetta it is. So I'm starting off with a book that I'm hoping gets published this year, Machine Vendetta by Alistair Reynolds, which is the third book in the Prefect Dreyfus trilogy. But if you don't feel like that, I'm going to make Torre happy and say Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay.
Ooh, 100%.
That's perfect, yeah.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Lovely story of a man who's so angry at a nation that he erases it from history. And people are upset by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it.
That's fair.
I'll add Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey as well. It fits pretty well here. There's a number of vendettas, and you can decide yourself which ones are the most important. And for a wild choice, I'm going to throw in Captive Prince for a gay relationship between two countries with a lot of hate and maybe some love. With the prince of one nation killed the prince of another nation's older brother, but then gets betrayed and shipped to him as his slave.
Oh, plot twist.
And that's the start of the novel.
Prologue twist.
Hurin, what are you feeling like?
I believe this is the only non-SFF pick I have, but I picked The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
lovely.
that book.
It's a classic.
Ever heard of it?
No, I never heard of it.
Yeah, I'm basic. I just go with the obvious answers.
LRB's
Traitor-
favorite.
It's really, really good.
It is
The Traitor
good.
Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. And finally, The Cracked Pot Trail by Stephen Erickson, which is the funniest thing I've ever read.
Okay.
Really. I'll have to talk to you more about that afterwards. Okay.
It's so funny.
Okay. I actually don't have anything. I only have one book that I'm not even sure if it fits because it's on my TBR pile and I have not read it, so I'm not gonna say it. Because I wanna do that to you guys. No, I don't. Okay, The Faithful and the Fallen. I'm reading right now. Malice doesn't totally fit, but I know what's coming, so that's spoilers. So again, I haven't read past that yet, but I know
Best
what's
served
coming.
cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, Storm Runners
that
had Best
definitely
Serve
fits.
Cold.
Mm-hmm.
I did something, The Traitor God by Cameron Johnston, which I made Eridandus read, and he quite liked. So there you go. If you know, he likes it. But it's about essentially this magician, and a magician, it's really a magic user in this world, who was in hiding the past 10 years. And then he finds out his best friend was murdered. So he comes back to the town he is known for, like where he's known and popular, and does essentially like a fantasy version of Beverly Hills Cop, if you've ever seen that movie. So, and it's good
Cool.
stuff.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Stormrunner also mentioned Best Served Cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
it
speaking
really
for him.
fits.
Okay, sorry. Might have missed it because I was looking at my screen.
It's too busy. Too busy reading it.
Sounds good. Next up, Nautical. Who wants to go first there?
Ship of Magic.
Yep, we knew it was coming. We knew it was
Robin
I have
coming.
that one.
everybody.
There's no other options. Sorry.
I second that.
Yeah. Yeah. Liza Lacrimora, book 2. Honestly, it gets a lot of hate, but it's one of my favorite nautical books ever. Yeah. Yeah, Red Seas. It's Red Seas by Red Sky, or something Red Seas and Red Skies in the title. Yeah,
Yep.
it's one of those. Yeah. I
Uh,
am sorry, go ahead.
no, you.
I had secondaries, so you go ahead.
Okay. I have The Skinner, which is another Neil Asher book, and it takes place on the planet Spatterjay, which is a mostly water world. It's on the edge of galactic civilization. It's inhabited by a virus which takes over your body if you don't eat food that's grown in a dome separate from the rest of the planet.
Okay.
And the virus will take over your flesh. It lives in these like leeches that inhabit the water and can give you a large amount of durability, which is necessary in this incredibly dangerous ocean environment. But if you are unable to maintain access to the high technology medicine and food that's at like the shuttle port, then you are screwed as it slowly takes over your body and turns you into a bit of a horror.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Interesting, but terrifying.
I checked out
Yeah.
after leeches, and yeah.
Yeah, I did. I had to do the little goosebump thing. That kind of. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very much like a pirate novel that's coexisting with a high technology novel. It's interesting.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't say Startide Rising.
I mean, Star Trek Rising is cool, but I'm not sure it's super nautical.
Doesn't it take place on like an ocean?
It takes place on a water world, but like everyone's crashed. Like there's a crashed ship, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
Okay.
like Lost. Okay.
I don't know. I don't get nautical vibes from it. I get aquatic vibes for sure, but
Okay.
I'll mention Tress of the Emerald
Okay. Yeah,
Sea.
you did mention
Yep.
Tress earlier.
Yeah,
I'm currently reading India Bones by blanking on his name. Don't remember the author. India Bones. It's not Indiana. Okay. There you go. You can search for that. I'm on the second book. It's fun. It's a YA, very Pirates of the Caribbean kind of mashup. It's all right. And then I'm looking forward to Bone Ships. I'm going to read that this year as well. It's been very
Cool.
highly reviewed. I want to check it out.
I thought you were reading a store brand Indiana Jones. Indiana Bones.
Yeah, they just threw out the NA. It's Indiana Bones. Yeah, they just
Gotcha.
it's like a kindergarten to use crayon and just cross it off and just yeah, that's it.
I prefer Illinois Jim.
And I will mention the series that starts with Wellspring of Chaos inside the Recluse series. It's Wellspring of Chaos and then Order Master. And it's an unusual entry in the Recluse series because the protagonist is not a teenager or like young adult. He's in his 40s. And so that's fun to start off with. But I would say like roughly half the series takes place on the ocean. and half of it doesn't. So
My picks were Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It's a poem, but it's really good. I like it a lot. And I had the live ship traders, but so I added Novels of the Malazan Empire by Yanin C.L. Simont because quite a few of it take place on water.
okay.
Maybe not most of it though.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. Sorry.
I'll
Also,
also throw in. Sorry, go ahead.
Fine.
Pirate
You're gonna say what I was gonna say?
No,
Do
no,
it.
no,
I
definitely
feel like
not.
you will. Come on.
I did. Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton. Were you
Okay.
gonna say that?
No, I was gonna say on Stranger Tides, the the original.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm gonna read. I haven't read it
yet. Yeah, so that one, Michael Crichton's last book, it's like a pirate book. It's all right. I mean, I honestly wouldn't recommend it, but if you're like desperate, it's short.
Yeah, we got other books in here that you can check out first.
I'm planning on reading The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi for my book this year, and it's by S.A. Chakraborty, and it's her second book in this series apparently, but standalone. So we'll see how that goes.
The City of Brass was not bad.
Yeah. Everyone done with Nautical? Cool. We're going to skip over Publish the Decade You Were Born, because that's a little hard to recommend, though I do just want to tell everyone that the Hugo and Nebula Awards are sorted by year, so you can go and look at the shortlists and figure out things that work for you.
Black Company by Glenn Cook. Oh, sorry.
It's on mine. Yeah. You're going to read it with me, right? Yeah.
Well, then it would take a buddy read. I mean, we got to...
Well, you can do that at the same time. That's fine.
For the 80s, I'm going to be doing The Integral Trees by Larry Niven, which is apparently these like giant stellar scale trees.
Is that late 80s or early 80s? Or?
Whoa. Let's not get into doxing Kip right now. We don't need to get his age out on the internet.
Cool. Moving on to Industrialization of Magic. So these are worlds in where magic has become subject to the rules of industry and commerce. So things like Eberron in the Dungeons and Dragons setting, where all of a sudden you're having people building golems, which do your war for you if you want them to.
Ooh, I got a good one. I just thought of it.
I'm looking forward to Dead Country by Matt Gladstone, which is the prequel for the Craft sequence, which is going to tell the story of how humans wrested control of magic from the gods and started the God Wars, now that they have decided that they can do better with corporations than with churches.
Okay. I did Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft.
Yeah.
I love that series.
Such a great book. Series, all four of them.
Yeah. The Avatar comics by Michael Dante DiMartino, Brian Konietzko, Jean Luen Yang, and Guri Hiru. If any Avatar fans out there and you want to learn more about Aang and the gang, they're pretty good. Craft sequence.
Is that the graphic novels?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll check them out. I haven't really read them yet.
Tower of God works.
Power of God?
Tower of God, which is a graphic novel / webcomic / anime.
Yeah. I have one. It started out as a web serial, but guess what, everybody? It's already been adapted and published by Wraithmarked Publishing. It is now 3 books. It's called The Mother of Learning and I only know from reading it as a web serial. His name is Nobody103. His real name is Andrew. I apologize. I don't want to butcher his name. Is Demigods or something like that. I only know as Nobody103. That's his web serial, but it's called The Mother of Learning. It's featuring time loop and lots of industrialized magic in the school setting. It's very fun.
Yeah, Hurin?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is a web serial?
It's how like books before they got published in like the 1920s, where they would almost do like a
They're just
chapter a
books
week.
that are released like
Yeah,
Chapter by
weekly.
chapter,
Yep.
like they used to in old
Chapter at a time.
magazines. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
but
like that.
online.
That's how Ulysses was released.
Mhm.
Probably my favorite industrialization of magic story is the one in the craft sequence, Two Serpents Rise, which is essentially like there's really close parallels with LA and water rights, and like desalination, and it's an interesting little story in there. There's other little industrialization moments which deal with things like foreign banking, defense contracts,
Housing
uh,
crisis.
space.
Do they go into gerrymandering and different zoning issues too?
Yeah, zoning is a huge thing in one of them.
Yeah.
Space missions.
So
There's a bunch of fun
anybody wants to
things.
say that a high fantasy can't be urban fantasy? Also, I think for listeners, in case they don't know, the craft sequence could be read in any order.
Pretty much any order. Especially the main craft sequence. Ruin of Angels shouldn't be read until after you've read at least Full Fathom 5.
Yeah, I read it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's fine.
The
The titles of the books have the chronological order inside of them. So the first book in the series is 3 parts Dead, but it's technically the third chronological book.
Yeah, I read First Last Snow first.
Yeah.
Which is good because it was my favorite.
It's a lovely book. I absolutely adore Last First Snow.
I just had Foundry Side. That's all I had. If you like talking keys, has nothing to do with industrialization.
Maybe recommended for programmers, or maybe highly not recommended for programmers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
From what I've seen on Reddit, it's definitely not for programmers, but for people who enjoy thinking
I
about
liked it.
programming.
For amateur physicists. For people who like thinking about quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Detective with optional sidekick. And I have, for the one that I'm going to be reading, is Sweet Silver Blues by Glenn Cook. And that's, I think, the first book of the Garrett PI series.
Correct.
But the one that I'm going to recommend is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And I don't think I need to say anything more about that one.
Classic.
Yeah, I should probably read that. Finally.
Basic.
Whoa. But some people like me need the hint again. So
I could just say the prefix again, and we could talk about Democracy Cop.
Yeah.
Okay, for anybody else want to go?
I got Snapshot by Brandon Sanderson. It's short. It's good. It's got an interesting premise, and yeah, there you go.
I chose Southern Gods by John Horner Jacobs, and it's it's a kind of a detective story. Someone hires like a World War II veteran. DJ hires him, and it takes place in Arkansas to just find some dude. He plays blues music, and he just travels the Arkansas backwoods, and it's a kind of like a Lovecraftian gothic horror, Southern gothic horror, but it's short and it's a standalone, and it's I don't know, it's one of the best books I've ever read in like the pseudo horror fantasy genre. So I wanted to get that out there, but it's kind of like a detective. He's not a detective, but someone hires him to find someone. So
Oh, sounds fun.
I think private detectives count.
Yeah.
As long as you put it on your business card or
It has
something
the
like
word
it.
detective in there, and that's what we're looking for.
right.
If you are hired to detect,
Yeah.
I chose.
Would you call Tara Abernathy a detective in the first craft book? Because she's more like an auditor, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go auditor, although she did have to detect things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably
If
let it
somebody wants to
slide.
counter it, I wouldn't argue with them.
Yeah, I'd probably let it slide. It's fine.
Okay.
My picks were The Caves of Steel by Isaac Asimov.
Nice,
It's
nice.
one of my favorite Asimov books, and it's definitely a detective story. And I thought I would be remiss not to include The World's Greatest Detectives, so I did The Long Halloween, the Batman story by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale.
Cool. I'm going to go out of left field here and recommend The Cat Who Blank series by Lillian Jackson Braun, about a quaint Scottish gentleman who writes for his local paper, used to work for a police department. I think in some of the early books, he still works for the police department, and solves various murders with the helps of his questionably psychic cats.
All right. So it has both a sidekick and a detective.
It does.
All right.
Those books got me through many a library book sale. You can pick them up for cheap.
Yeah, sounds like a 50-cent
Oh,
library
absolutely.
sale book.
Absolutely. No, I paid $1 for some of those.
I meant that as a compliment.
Getting fleeced.
Some of the best.
We good with our detectives?
Good.
Awesome. Let's move on to Cyberpunk, our last square we're going to be giving recommendations for. So Cyberpunk, gritty, technologically sophisticated, and more than a little dark, and a little bit raging against a system that suppresses the average person. That's basically Cyberpunk, right?
Hypercapitalism.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to recommend, if you haven't read this one already, this is one of the definers of the genre, and it's Neuromancer. And if you haven't read that and you want to know what Cyberpunk is, read that or read
Okay.
Snow Crash. Read those two.
Yeah, those are the two that were on my list to read. I have not read either of them, and I was
Yeah,
still
those are the two
questioning
that
what Cyberpunk was. So I'm glad you cleared it up.
Those two are also on my list. Neuromancer is as good as people say it is.
Yep.
I've read it like 4 times.
My list was to read. I've not read either of them.
Yep.
I need
And
to.
if you want a manga, read Ghost in the Shell.
Oh,
That was
okay. Now
also
you
on
got
my
me.
list.
That's a nice change of pace. Okay, I might have to do that.
Actually, the movie Ghost in the Shell, I think, took a lot of liberties with Neuromancer.
So,
Like, it's great. It's fantastic, and I'd recommend watching it.
It's an exploration. Yeah.
so for Cyberpunk, would it work? Because help me figure it out. So, like, Murderbot would not because he's not fighting against system, or so it's going to be like
is.
sci-fi, but also.
I've got a Murderbot in my Cyberpunk rec sheet right here.
Oh, it
You
is.
did?
So Murderbot would fit as Cyberpunk.
Yeah, especially
Okay.
some of the later stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm getting into the later ones, so.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Like once you get past, I think, like the first book, it's pretty clearly Cyberpunk. The first book is a little bit more questionable.
So we're going off of sci-fi that is some kind
Almost
of man against government, or you know what I mean?
It's mostly
Corporation.
man against corporations, and
Corporation.
Yeah, which Murderbot has
Which
in
is-
spades.
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
true.
And you need to have some sort of like, it's got to have the grit. It's got to have like a physically dirty setting, at least somewhere.
It needs to be gritty. Yeah.
There has to be grunge on the wall or any
It's
kind of
gotta be
weird
grunge,
stuff.
yeah.
Slime has to be mentioned at least twice. Okay.
Which there's some gore in Murderbot in the first book. Like you can imagine.
Oh yeah,
You
definitely.
imagine that research station just like steadily devolving from its peak, like clean, sterile surfaces over the
Lots
course
of
of the
drug
novel.
use is also a trump in the genre.
Bonus. Okay.
I had Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is really proto Neuromancer, but I think or proto
If it's
Cyberpunk, but
Yeah.
it's highly influential. And if you've seen Blade Runner, you understand. And then I had everything that's Kip said, plus Virtual Light by William Gibson and Pattern Recognition by William Gibson.
well, yeah, you can just say William Gibson.
William
Like
Gibson.
most of his stuff is cyberpunk.
So I googled Cyberpunk to pick out a book and pretend like I read it, and it has between all the Philip K. Dick books and the William Gibson, I did find a book that I read that they are saying is cyberpunk, so you can't say it's not.
Okay.
So I'll say Ready Player One by Ernest Cline because it's on the list.
But do you
I recommend-
recommend it?
You know what? It
Really,
is
we're
cyber.
giving
it is
recommendations out
cyberpunk.
here.
It's just bad.
I recommend it to fill that
Okay.
square if you need a
Okay.
book to fill
Okay.
that
All
square.
right, that's
It-
fair.
Means for cyberpunk, sure.
So there you go. I mean, hey, it's
Yeah.
in with those books.
And I'll throw in Altered Carbon
Yeah.
by Richard Morgan, which
Okay,
is
I've
a
heard
great
this
series. I love that author. He also has like one that I wouldn't quite call cyberpunk, but it's getting there, and it's called Market Forces, and it's about a world in which your promotion is based on street battles of car racing,
That sounds fun. All right.
which is interesting and kind of fun.
I'm not going to recommend it because I haven't read it, but I'm going to read Noor by Nenendi Okorafor.
Okay.
That's her new book. I hear it's cyberpunk, and I like her stuff.
Cool.
I got nothing. I was waiting for you guys to tell me this one. I was really hoping you wouldn't save it for last, so I ended with I got nothing. But no, I'm not. I have read Ready Player One. I'm not gonna second that, just because I think any of the other books out there look pretty intriguing. I want to try those first.
You could say Ready Player Two.
Never read it. Not gonna.
Fair.
I'm going to be reading Maelstrom by Peter Watts, which is a continuation in the Starfish series, the Rifters series.
So, are we not doing buddy read?
That's more of a personal
Why-
thing, but we can end it on that if you want.
How do you read?
Do buddy read.
right.
If you want to say that your DMs are open for,
Well,
go right ahead.
we are actually. Me and Yetti are doing The Faithful and the Fallen right now, so we're only one book in. But if you guys, anybody wants to catch up, it's 4 books in the series.
Well, you could pick a book that you think would be fun to buddy read. I mean, you know.
That's true.
Karen, what's your next literary criticism book that you're reading?
I think we were looking at it was something basic like introductory narratology. I think.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds basic.
I meant basic like in the actual basic, like
Basic
introductory
for-
courses.
Okay. 101.
Cool. So I think that concludes our bingo episode. Come at us with your recs, change our TBRs, do whatever you can to make us read awesome books this year. We'd love it. Thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Say bye, everyone.
See
Hi
ya.
everyone.
See ya.
Okay. Our intro and outro music is Our intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Thank you, Craig, for getting this all started. Thank you, Craig, for loaning us this corner of your media empire, and Horizon Brave for getting this all started. Had a great time. This was Green Team. Bye.